Oh, hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are y'all doing out there today? Hello, hello. This is WIND, the Little Indigestion channel, and you're listening to Book Club Hour. We're talking about Howl's Moving Castle starting in about 15 minutes. But first, I think I'm probably going to go make some tea downstairs. I'm going to give the dogs some treats, and then I think we're gonna make some tea. Because Megan and I had the exact same thought about 2 minutes ago, which was...
Radio show when?
Which was, if we're going to do book club stream, we should have tea. We should drink tea. So I'm probably going to go make some tea. WIND. I get it because of fats. Yes, we what's it called when you, what is the term for farting that has to do with farts, that has to do with wind? You pass wind? Pass wind is what it's called, right? You break wind. That's what it is. Pass gas, break wind. Hero, are you so pissed you didn't get to go yesterday? Come here. Oh, good boy. Dad, when you got home with Kingsway, I smelled him so hard, and I thought, something is uphill. I knew when you left without me that I was going to miss out on something. Please take me with you next time. He's a good boy. All right, let's do it. Here's what we're going to do. Justice for Hero. All my heroes, all my homies want hero walking. Hey, we're going to start our book club discussion here in about 10 minutes. We're going to meet over in the Discord in the voice call. You don't have to be in the voice call if you don't want to. Trust me, we can do all of this via text if you would prefer not to. But if you want to maybe use your actual voice to talk about books, which I find a little bit easier, general chat on Discord. We'll be over there in just a little bit. First, I'm going to take you guys on the road and go walk down and to make some tea using my phone. But I'm excited to talk about the book. I don't know how long we'll be here for. Maybe an hour. Maybe we'll see. I don't know what the conversation's going to be like. This is new. Use your book mug. I was going to make us each tea inside of the mugs. This one's dirty. So never mind. I'll use this mug. Now you guys are the dogs being taken on a walk. Come with a walk on. Come for me with a walk. Come with me for... I can't speak today. Can you hear me? Oh, God. I forgot to turn the volume down. Is that better? I hope that's better. Is it better at all? Audio, okay. I'm going to walk away from the computer in just a second. It's volume. Pterodactyl, by the way. Ooh. How are y'all doing? Hope you're having a great day. I don't know where my computer is so that I can also read chat while I do this. Look at my face. Look at my face. You may be able to hear the sounds of dogs tipping and tapping in the background, and our daughter playing with some toys. Oh, hello. Welcome to the kitchen. Welcome to this lovely angle. Listen, if it's going to be book club stream, you gotta get prepared with some tea. So I'm going to make some tea. We're going to heat up some water. I asked you how your day has been, but I can't actually read the chat right this second. So let me heat up some water, then I'll go get my computer so I can start the chat. And then we'll get to talking. should probably be careful where I show the camera. All right, you guys watch my mug for my kettle for a second. Okay, I have my computer, so I can read chat starting now. My day was good. I did a lot of chores, some self-care with a long shower and foot care, and I'm working on some stuff for my class right now. I love foot care. Just kidding. That sounded weird. Sounded very weird. Ryan, come back. I'm here. Damn, he was so quick. I'm so quick with it. Let's make you guys a little taller. Give you guys some uppies. Yeah, how's your day been so far? I've had a really good day. I had some very tough exercises this morning, but I'm very grateful to Meg for letting me do it because she watched Elle while I was exercising. Basically, I did a 45-mile bike ride, and I wanted to quit from mile like 15 on, but I did not quit. What kind of tea are we making? That's a great question. Hey Meg, what kind of tea do you want? You can tell she's listening to stream because she didn't answer in real time. She answered once she had heard it happen on stream. I'm honestly probably gonna have this cinnamon if that's okay with you, because it's the last. Unless you want the last cinnamon.
Yeah, you know the cinnamon, that's fine.
Hi, Carly. Oh, hi. What do you want?
What do we have left from the good store?
We have like almost everything. We have a lot of teas. A lot of teas. Do you wanna? I can hold her. You can look.
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
Tony said Lucas had the zoomies. Being sick plus missing his meds equals chaotic child. Speeds is grading. Strawberry is hoping today goes a little bit better. Hey, girly. Chat, you're gonna get an interesting stream today. Megan and I are gonna be trading off L duty. So you're never gonna have both of us at the same time, but together we're gonna make stream work. You actually passed me my computer so I can still read chat.
Yeah.
Hi Meg. H is in the chat. H is in the chat, by the way.
Hi guys. I did not make myself like
Presentable for stream. That's okay.
yeah.
I think they all think you look fine.
Thanks guys.
And if they don't, they're banned.
Ban them.
Ban them. Listen, after we start early. We have not started discussion. I started early so that we could do the like, how was your day thing before we do anything else. I have the same blue air fryer thing. That's new for us. Megan asked for it, I think, for Christmas. You look great, Meg? Yeah, she does. You guys want to see the back of Elle's head? Too bad. Just kidding. What are you looking
I
for?
think I'm gonna do this, but I don't know where the tea.
The thing is?
Yeah.
I think it is also back there. Here, you hold her on.
Trade.
Yeah. I can make the tea. I just needed you to pick what you wanted.
Trade.
Shit, where is it? Don't look at our dishes, chat. You can read chat and I'll make tea. How's that?
Okay, sounds good.
Oh God, where is it?
I don't know. I thought it was in the cabinet somewhere, but
Maybe. Thought it was in here. Yeah, it's in here.
aha. Yes.
So which one of these 5 teas are you
The
doing? April Meadows Green. That
Yeah.
sounds like a tea you would drink from Howl's Moving Castle. Okay, the water's gonna be too hot. Does anybody know if that messes things up?
It can mess things up.
Uh-oh.
So do yours, and then we can turn the kettle down a little.
Sounds good. Did you guys know Kingsley hates it when the kettle beeps?
Yeah, they don't like our kettle.
The dogs don't like it when the kettle beeps.
But Club in the Kitchen, we're making tea,
Make
and
it
then
tea,
we'll go back.
and then we'll go. Do you want any sugar?
I want maybe some honey.
Some honey?
Yeah.
No, I gotta be all complicated, huh?
Well, it's
I'm
tea.
kidding. I'm kidding. I'll get you some honey.
Julia says we used to sell that pod at Tivana.
Oh,
I think I got that when I used to have a FabFitFun membership.
Fit and Fun. Where's your thing? Your mug.
I didn't get it.
Oh, you didn't get it yet. Okay.
I definitely got it. Like, I didn't order it. I got it as a part of something. And I think it was in a FabFitFun membership box.
And then you want the book bag.
I have one too. It's great. Yeah, they're really nice.
My weekend is booked.
Yeah.
Check out Meg's.
It's not my mug. It's your mug.
It's my mug, technically. Check out the mug. Is it in reverse or is it? Can you read it?
It's
my
great.
weekend. It's all booked. Listen, I like the mug, but it's too small.
It is a very small mug.
I'm a fan of mugs that are like 12 ounces or more. Her tummy is in a bad way. If it's like an 8-ounce mug, that's too little.
Are you trying to look at all the screens in here, kid?
She's like, well, what is going on? Sorry, guys. I really thought we'd be ready to talk about one. We're going to get there. Oh my God. Our kitchen is a mess.
And I spent an hour doing dishes this morning. So.
No, what I meant by that is I'm making tea right beside the baby formula, the baby food, and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I added honey. Do anything else?
I may add a little sugar, but I can do it. Don't worry about that.
You sure?
Yeah.
I can make the actual tea for you.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Don't we need to have like 45 minutes of technical issues yet too?
Yeah, exactly.
Lambert says, should I put the cinnamon honey or the lingonberry honey in my tea?
I read that as
what kind of tea are you having?
I read that as lingerie honey, and I thought, not on this stream. On this stream, we're a good Christian stream.
No lingerie honey on
We
this
don't do
stream.
anything that
I
isn't.
don't know that you're supposed to put all the tea in.
Well, I figured it was a sampler bag. 1.5 teaspoons. Guess that's more.
It is the sampler bag, but
I just figured it was like 1 cup per thing.
Joyce says, I know it makes literally no difference, but stirring with a knife feels wild.
Listen, in this household, spoons are a hot commodity.
I stir with forks frequently.
We have 3 people, and I choose a knife over a fork. Spoons are the things that get dirty the quickest.
I feel like we go through a lot of knives though too. With like toast, putting butter on toast and peanut butter on things. If it sounds like I'm talking weird, it's because my child likes to have her hands in my mouth 90% of the time. So I apologize.
I hope that's enough tea for you. Well, a little bit more.
I can make my tea if it's stressing you out.
No, it's fine. I'm just feeling bad because I'm behind schedule.
Chat, should Ryan feel bad because he's behind schedule?
I don't know. Yesterday we went to a doctor's appointment for Elle, and it was at 10:30, and
it was at 10:15, but for some reason it was at 10:30 in both of our brains.
That's what I was trying to say. It's at 10:30 in our count like. I guess it was correct in our calendar.
It was correct in our calendar, but both
All right,
brains. Okay, sounds good.
Cool. I'm gonna take them upstairs. Oh God.
Carly says Ryan should only feel bad about making me miss treats.
Well, I don't. Did you finish the book yet, Carly? All right, I'm headed upstairs.
Okay, I'll be listening.
Sounds good. I'm kidding. I feel bad. I'm sorry, Carly. Evo and Catilla killed the treats today. I think they got 3 each, or like 2 and 4, something like that. All right, we're gonna switch back to the other cam, hop in the Discord, and talk about Howl's moving castle. So be on. Oh God, I just punched myself with the camera. BRB. Just punched myself. Okay, we have tea. I'm gonna hop in the general chat and get ready to talk. Quote 1682. I think you did that right. I don't know why that didn't work. Speaking of treats, I'd like to very politely request free dog treat for my birthday. Satisfied? I'm here to tell you that you don't get free handouts on your birthday. But not on stream. I will give the dogs a treat later for you. I promise. Happy freaking birthday, by the way. Is Streamlabs not working at all? I don't know that that's the correct quote. I think it must be like, are you sure it's 1682? Weird. Oh, Meg's here.
Hi. I
Hello.
thought this is where we were coming to talk about the book.
That's what we're doing. You're here.
Well, good
It's
then.
perfect. Yeah. All right, we're gonna start in like 2 minutes. If you would like to hop into the general voice chat, you can. If you do not want to, that is also okay. We can do this, Megan and I, with the input of people in the chat. That's fine too. Either way, no pressure. But this is your 2-minute warning. 2 minutes.
But
2
just
minutes.
a little bit of pressure. Like,
No pressure.
book club. Come chat about the book.
They can chat in chat if they would like.
That's true. That's true.
Hey,
just
listen.
saying.
As a person who has been pressured in the reading aspect of my life before in the past, I am very anti pressuring you in any way because reading is such a special thing, you know? Megan,
True,
thank
true,
you so
true,
much
true.
for the follow. I have a lot of strong feelings about pressuring people around reading because it's such a personal and beautiful and intimate thing that that I have felt in the past when I've been pressured to do stuff, I'm like, dang, this social aspect is actually hurting this thing that is very private and special to me. And that's on having a BookTube YouTube channel for too many years while you have bad mental health. Hi, Cassie. How you doing?
So we're reading Underworld for the next book club, right?
I shit you not. I was planning, and I didn't do it because I forgot. I was planning on getting Underworld off from my shelf and holding it up to say, so Underworld, and using that as the... So I read Underworld this month, and oh wait, you guys read a different book?
You guys read a different book?
All right, raise your hands in the hands in the Twitch chat if you are here to talk about Howl's Moving Castle in particular. Like you read it and you're here to talk. If we don't want to talk, we can stay right here. Stay right there. Perfect. Look at all these people we got here. We got Speeds, K-Bell, Uzai, Runesnips, Catilla, Jab, Carly, Cassie, Pexy, Geek, Julia, Lambrecht. Holy shit. Holy shit. That's awesome. Llamas is here to
Elle
listen
wants
at
to
least,
talk
but
about
I
the book too.
did read it. Say again.
Elle wants to talk about the book too.
Elle wants to talk about the book.
What do you want to say about the book? No, you can't actually grab my
Lady
Kindle.
Rivers. Did you ask if we'd talk in voice chat? No, I was just saying who's here to chat about it, like in chat, Twitch chat. That's totally fine. We're new to this. We've never done this before. We can figure it out together. The only important thing to me about the next hour or so is that we have a good time and we talk vaguely about the book. Nothing other than that is on my priority list. All right, let's do it. Timer's up.
I don't think I've ever been in a book club before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
Well, that's not
no,
true.
I have.
I probably like read some books in like high school evangelical Bible study as part of like a book club.
I was going to tell you, I started a book club in college that I was really, really proud of. We had
really?
a ton of people. We got free books for the people who were in the book club, and we got a ton of people to read a ton of books they otherwise wouldn't have, and I was really proud of it.
It's wonderful.
This is a great question. Have you ever been in a book club before? Is anyone else joining the Discord chat? I don't know. I think currently it's just Megan and I. If anyone wants to join the voice chat, even for a little bit, feel free. No pressure. But if you're like, wait, I have a thought I'd like to express, and I can't express it quite so well via writing it out, I'm voice shy, you turds. That's okay. That's okay. If we need to as well, like if it's weirding you out that I'm on stream, we can do the next one off stream or something if that would be preferred. We'll figure it out together. I don't even like calling to order a pizza. Neither does Meg. Never been in a book club before. I was in a book club in high school. Satisfied says I'm on my way. The birthday person is showing up. Oh, let's go. Pexy's here as well. Hi,
Pexy's
Pexy.
here.
Hey guys.
How you doing? The
Hi,
brave
Pexy.
Pexy.
I was just about to say, I'm gonna be the brave one, take the plunge, be the first one, maybe other people come in. There we go.
Geek
Now
is
everyone's
here.
coming in.
Let's go. We got people
Grant,
here. Thank you, Pexy. Thank you, Geek. Hi. How y'all doing?
Hi. Having a heart attack, but otherwise I'm great.
Oh, don't be nervous. You've done it a million times before. On your own streams and on mine. Isn't it help when you tell
True.
people not to be nervous?
It
No, that
always
doesn't help at all.
That's
Especially for this one, I feel like I'll grossly underperform. And
hey.
that's what I'm scared of.
Raise your hand in the chat if you're feeling nervous about how do I talk about books during book club? How do I have deep thoughts? I know at least Katilla is, because Katilla said that before we started today. They said, hey, I'm nervous about pretending to have deep thoughts about this book. Good news. Excellent news.
We don't have to have any deep thoughts about it.
We ain't going to get deep here. I mean, we may, but if we do, it'll be truthfully 100% on accident.
I want to start a conversation.
Start a
topic.
conversation.
So I read it on Kindle because we have one physical copy, and honestly, I never read with a Kindle until we had Elle, and I wanted one when she was born because nursing, breastfeeding her took forever when she was little, and I would just like scroll on my phone, and I was like, I want to be able to hold something and read.
Yeah.
So I got a Kindle. Anyways, now breastfeeding her takes like 5 minutes, so I don't read it then, but
Yeah.
But it's nice to have for travel and stuff because all of her stuff takes up so much room, and then my book can take up no room. But anyways, all of this to say, at the back of the Kindle, there was like an extra. There were a section of extras.
Yeah,
And
that
there
my
was
book
like
does
a
not
short-
have.
Yeah, there was a short question and answer session with Diana Wynne Jones, the author. And the
Awesome.
first question was like, everybody wants to marry Howl. And like let me actually just pull it up. But basically the premise of the question was like, lots of young readers want to marry Howl, or like are in love with Howl, and are you in love, would you want to marry Howl? And so I want to pose that as our first discussion topic. Who wants to marry Howl? Who doesn't want to marry Howl?
And why?
Go.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
If you're in the Discord call, feel free to unmute at any point and start a thought. You do not have to wait for a like specific prompt. Just feel free to.
I don't want to marry Howl.
Oh, why? Interesting.
I mean, I thought Diana Wynne
kinda did
Jones'
wanna
answer
marry
was
Howl
very good, which
At
was
certain
like,
parts.
Hal's kind of just like Hal is lovely, but Hal's also like a vain, self-centered kind of turd who takes like 3 hours in the bathroom every morning. Would you
Very
really
full
want to
of
marry
himself.
that?
I definitely could not
Strawberry
be married to a
says he's too
person.
dramatic.
I could not be
Which is
married
absolutely
to a
correct.
person who spends 3 hours in the bathroom every morning. But I could be married to a person who is like very fashionable and really cares about what they wear. I feel like that would be interesting to have somebody who like knows the difference between the different capes. Also, if they could just like do magic, that would be kind of nice. But
That would be nice for sure.
I will say the
Now, would you marry Calcifer? Yes.
the moment I did feel like maybe I actually do want to marry Howl is very late in the book when you could see that Howl was like playing chess a little bit and being like I needed to, like, you could tell that Howl had been taking care of Sophie without Sophie knowing for a while. That I was like, oh, Howl has a good heart and is honest in this way, despite being not so much in other ways all the time. But anybody else want to marry Howl?
I think I would.
Is that Mona? Mona would marry Howl.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I guess my thought. Can you hear me?
Yes, Geek wants
Yep.
to marry Howl. Maybe.
I would not marry Howl.
Sadie is
I
not
absolutely
is not
won't.
marrying Howl.
Me neither. Dude would
I'm-
drive me up the wall.
No, I'm.
Oh, Geek, if you're listening, mute stream and just listen to the Discord call. That might help. I think there may be a little bit of a delay. I'm gonna change camera so you guys can see who's talking. Over here. Oops. Sadie would not marry Howl. Why is that?
I think he's just too dramatic. He's, I mean, yeah, he takes a long time in the bathroom. I don't care about that, but I don't know. I need someone that's not going to stress me out more than I'm already stressed out.
Also, just like, oh, go ahead. I couldn't tell who was speaking there. I wasn't looking at the screen.
This my dog is throwing a fit.
This is your dog. Does your dog have thoughts on Howl? What I was gonna say is, hi Whack, welcome in. Hello. I do think even as a person who does really like teasing my life partner, shout out to Meg, I would feel a little bit pissed off at Howl when he is like, get your long nose out of things. Oh my God, you've made such a problem of the thing that you just spent all your time on. Like, he's kind of, it's like used for narrative effect, I think, a lot, but like he's kind of mean about some, about how Sophie spends her time a lot of times. He's so much worse in the book than in the movie. Interesting. Go ahead.
Oh, I have so many thoughts about the movie versus book, but I won't get into it. I think that I really like that Hal just kind of lets Sophie be who she is, whether she is like annoyed or angry or like, he kind of, not that he like tiptoes around her, but he just kind of like accepts who she is. And what you said about her, him kind of helping her without telling her, and caring for her kind of inconspicuously, I think was very sweet, and honestly didn't even really notice until she kind of noticed herself, or maybe he pointed it out to her or something. I can't remember.
Here's my next question. So I had a certain experience reading the book, and Sekhmet says I'm headed out so I don't get spoiled. Perfect, Sekhmet. Enjoy the book. I had a certain experience reading the book, and I'm curious if other people had it. Other people have also read the book more than once. So I'm guessing if you've read it more than once, you did not have what I had. So I had a moment where I realized earlier than Sophie did that Howl and Sophie were sort of perfect, quote unquote, like perfect for each other. I was like, oh my God, they're doing the same thing to each other. There's chemistry that isn't just like explosive chemistry, but like good chemistry here. And it happens, for me, it happened before it happens for Sophie, because it happens for her at the like last second. And I thought that was, first off, I'm wondering if other people had that experience. Like, when in the book did you realize, wait a second, Sophie and Howl are sort of like, if you will, speaking the same language. They gripe at each other. They like take care of each other in ways that the other person might not have asked for, but which they definitely benefit from. When was that for you? And then does that like, I guess the related question is like, does that like work for you? Because I was kind of, I was nervous at first. I was like, oh boy, they're just like two nitpicky turds who deserve each other. But then it ended up being kind of beautiful towards the end for me personally. I don't know. When did people like start to realize it, and how did that like work for you, or how did you feel about it?
For me, it was less of a realization that they were kind of perfect for each other, and more like this is set up. Like, as I don't know, it just feels like totally set up in a narrative kind of way, so that, oh yeah, okay, so our protagonist and Hal end up as a romantic couple. That's, I don't know, it felt like something that was just done over and over in literature and in media, that it's just, I've been there, done that, seen it before, the usual stuff kind of feeling. And honestly, I don't know. I guess by the end, when Howl really comes out and tells Sophie and flat out all things that he's done, that he actually helped her, that her body's aching less and stuff like that. That's when because I totally didn't realize that Sophie was feeling better. And I mean, then I was like, okay, yeah, that's in the sense of course it's nice, and that also that he knew that she was under a spell. So there was a little bit of a realization, but also I was like, that jackass, like, why didn't he tell her? And why didn't he? Yeah, I was mostly mad. That's why I wouldn't marry him, because I was mostly mad. Why don't you flat out tell her,
Yeah.
hey, I can see you're under a spell. Want me to help you, friend?
Yeah.
I think
And-
that's a little bit of integrity on his part, to be honest. Like doing the right thing, even though you are not known to be doing the right thing or the
You
kind
have a
thing.
reputation to uphold. Yeah.
I mean, not even that, just that he actually, like, for me, that really shows that he genuinely cares about her, because he doesn't actually care who knows, if she knows that he is kind to her or is helping her in any way, to like praise him as such a vain and like quote unquote womanizing man. For him not to want her approval, I think makes him quite genuine and gives him a lot of integrity in that sense.
But here's an issue I have. He's kind enough to alleviate her physical pain, but he's not kind enough to lift the spell of her, just because he assumes, without actually talking to her, that she just wants to be in disguise, because Sophie's not aware that she's disguising herself by that point.
That is actually really interesting, because I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
That's fine. That's an issue.
I thought, and I could be wrong. I thought that part of what Hal said was that he had done what he could to try to lift the spell, but she was still under the spell because of her like reliance on the spell, making her old. And I don't know if I'm understanding that correctly, but that was my interpretation of what Hal said. I don't know if that's correct.
I had the same interpretation, but I don't know. As a first-time reader, there is a lot that I am sure really went over my head, because like people were talking in chat about how they felt like they also realized sort of late what was happening between Sophie and Hal. I felt like this book, I would greatly benefit from reading it again and realizing who knew what during what parts of the book. You know, like so much of the last half or last quarter of the book is so-and-so actually knew that you were like, we knew that you were Sophie. I knew that you were blank. I knew that, and we don't know that because like an astute reader or a reader who has read it more than once will know that, but Sophie doesn't know it. So the first time reader often doesn't know it either. There was a lot that I was like, oh, I should have picked up on that 20 pages ago. And I just didn't.
Agreed. I also thought that I would left. I hope I have the time to read the book again and go back and see, like, even just going back and reading the first interaction with the Witch of the Waste and having Gaston's reaction to Sophie with the later knowledge that that he was actually talking about her sister Letty, and didn't know that Sophie existed and was totally feeling guilty that she would get the blunt of the witch's wrath.
Yeah.
And he didn't mean to get her into the crossfire at any point. That changes a lot of things about that first interaction as well. And there's a lot of other interactions that totally fall under that.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on the question of like when you realized that Sophie and Howl might be like falling towards each other? Before we potentially move on to a new question. Lambrecht has an amazing question in the book chat that I really want to get to, and I've got a couple other things I'd like to ask beyond whatever you guys want to talk about too.
I'll be honest regarding this question. I'll be honest that I was reading the book, and at like many points during the book, I was like, where is the love story actually? Like, where is the thing between them? Maybe that's like my bias from watching the film, or like me being influenced by thinking that I knew the story before reading this. But yeah, it was very much like completely towards the end, like the last couple of chapters even,
Hmm.
or what I read today, that was like when it kind of came together. But I also think that that's a lot of me not really paying attention to their
Yeah.
banter
I also think
and
like
interpreting that way.
yeah, one other thought for this. Mint Tea Cup has a really incredible comment on Twitch that I'm going to read in 1 second. That is about this. I think beyond the like romance of it too, quote unquote, the like, there's the like the realization that like, oh, Sophie is actually being really good for Howl, and Howl is being really good for Sophie. Like the like found family part of it. That like, oh, they make each other's lives like more enjoyable, or like they help each other, that kind of thing. Minty Cuppa says, I think part of Sophie's journey was discovering / expressing parts of herself. I think she was enabled to do so because of the spell, so that she unconsciously maintained it. People in chat were saying that Howl tried to get the spell off, but that it was like unconsciously maintained by Sophie's magic. Related question. Something I think maybe the thing I'm like most obsessed with the book personally is the idea of how Sophie thinks about herself and the way that changed. Like to me, if I had to say what is the book about, on the one hand you can say like fantasy or like magic or like a bunch of things like that. But to me, the like character part of it is Sophie's self-perception and how that changes and is enabled or disabled by magic, by having friends, by having a disguise. Like each of those things like flips a switch on or off for how Sophie perceives herself. And I am very interested in hearing anyone's opinions on it because I've been thinking about it nonstop since about halfway through the book. RuneSnip says, I think it's a book about self-worth and love happens around it, which I think is really interesting.
I would also agree that self-discovery is one big theme of the book. Absolutely. I totally
I
see
think
that.
self-acceptance as well. I just can't get over how Sophie reacted to being cursed. The immediate acceptance.
Yeah,
the real
let's
like
find it. Let's see what it says, because I agree.
this
What
is just
chapter
this
is
is
that?
happening now, and like I'm just gonna go with it.
I
Or
thought
just like, yeah, go on.
I think it was so easy to accept it because she already felt cursed as being the eldest and set up to fail. That's something that immediately struck me at the beginning of the book, because I don't know about you guys, but I have an older brother, so I can only speak from the perspective of a younger sibling. But sometimes I did wonder if, even growing up, if our parents like looked at each other differently and compare like how much they compared us, being like, oh, our eldest is kind of struggling at school and the younger one is doing better, and kind of changes they made, what kind of schools they send us to and all that stuff. So I would love to hear from potentially older siblings how they felt that growing up, if they felt they were set up to fail because they were the oldest, they were doing everything for the first time, and kind of their younger siblings could learn from their mistakes.
Wack made such a good comment about Sophie putting the spell on herself of like the responsibility of being the eldest, and I think that's so spot on.
Yeah, we should talk about that. The line is directly, so it's on the first page, and I have it. Is this related to another question I was going to ask? So this is perfect intro. On the very first page, the very first lines of the books, the first line says, "In the land of Ingary, where such things as 7-league boots and cloaks of invisibility really exist, it is quite a misfortune to be born the eldest of 3." Then it says, "Everyone knows you are the one who will fail first and worst if the 3 of you set out to seek your fortunes." To me, I think those two lines are doing something really interesting. The first line is like introducing a, how do I phrase this? It's like introducing an authority figure on the subject. It's like it says, "It is quite a misfortune to be born the eldest of 3." The next line says, "Everyone knows you are the one who will fail first." To me, and I'm interested in other people's thoughts on this, to me, that's actually that's the author saying, you are reading a fairy tale and I'm aware of the tropes. That's it. I think it's from Sophie's voice, but I don't think that's actually something the author believes. I think it's something the author wants us to know that Sophie thinks that. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
everyone knows you are the one who will fail first. That's not true. We do know it from fairy tales. We know of this, like, the type of tropes of, like, 3 sisters and a wicked stepmother and et cetera, and like child dynamics between the siblings. But I think it is a really, how do I phrase this? I think it's a like specific choice by the author, page 1, to be like, we're interacting with other fairy tale like stories and Sophie believes them. You know?
It really plants the seed and sets the tone for sure.
Yeah. If Sophie has to believe this lie, like Wax said, if this is the spell she cast on herself, then we get it in line 2 of the whole book, you know? Like, Sophie thinks she's set to fail because she's the eldest, and that is the thing she will have to unlearn over the next 300 pages or 200 pages or whatever.
I feel like this is also like it's easy to forget that this is considered children's literature, and because it's written in like the 80s, and I feel like it's really important in children's literature, like writing for younger people, that you establish those like tentpole concepts really early and just plainly so that they get it and then can move on and understand the story pretty much immediately instead of weaving it into some like really complex thing. Because I mean, it was meant for people under 18 whenever it was written.
Yeah, even if it does read really, and still like I still really enjoyed it as a 32-year-old dude. But
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's any
affects it,
real
yeah.
age that you can't enjoy it, but it's definitely written for a specific audience because a lot of the like sentences, it's very simply written.
Yeah,
Like,
and has
just
the like fantastical,
straightforward.
Yeah. The fairy tale language of this fantastical thing exists, and my job is to make you believe that it is very normal and very accepted. 7 league boots and etc. Strawberry says Hattie was already resigned to her life in the hat shop, so I think she accepted her curse so readily and completely because she had no self-worth and plans for her own future beyond that.
I mean, statements like these always make me wonder, because like that has to come from somewhere. I mean, it says in the book that everyone knows that, so it's common knowledge is kind of a social thing. Another question we can ask is it really? Or like, is it really a social thing? Because I don't think anyone, or correct me if I'm wrong, but does anyone in the book ever repeat that sentence other than Sophie? I'm not sure anyone does. So it could be a purely a belief that Sophie has, but it is presented as something that is like a social norm or like a social concept.
I kind of think that's the point, though, Pexi.
Mm.
Because Sophie believes it, so it is like.
I mean, it becomes true for her.
Universe, yeah.
But then that's there's of course a difference between what she expects herself to be and what other people expect her to be, or the potential she
100%.
has.
There, yeah, I think you're both onto something where it's like, whether or not it's actually like, we can't do a sociological study of the time period and know. We can. It's a great idea to look at other characters. Do they say that they believe this? I think you're probably right that no one else says it. But what is 100% true is that Sophie believes it and therefore like makes very important decisions about her future based on this thing that she thinks other people believes, whether or not they actually do, you know?
Mm.
Right. And I guess for me, one of the most interesting points about this is it's not a first-person narrative, right? Sophie's not the narrator, but it appears that Sophie and the narrator are the only two that believe that, and you can see throughout the story that it absolutely affects Sophie's life because she believes that.
Yeah. Oh man, I love third-person narration so close. So I'm gonna nerd out for a second. Take a shot. Everybody knows what I'm about to say. I have a master's degree in creative writing. But one of my favorite points of view, so if you don't know much about point of view, there's different names for like, does a book start with like, I did this? Does it start with like, you did this? This one is you use third person, aka Sophie said this, Howl did this. However, you are third person closely, rather than third person omniscient, where you know what every single character is thinking. What you know is what one character is thinking and one person is feeling about what other people think. So occasionally, I'll try and find a good example, but like when Sophie is talking with Michael, the description reads as if like Michael did this, but what's actually happening is you're getting a description of what Michael did filtered through Sophie's perspective. And the reason that I really, really love close third person narration where you're close to one person is that it reads as objective, but it is utterly not objective. For instance, it says unreliable narrator. Like to me, this book, and we should talk about the curse too, but like to me, the book doesn't work if we don't get Sophie's worldview leaking in, and very importantly, her self like perception, right? Like how Sophie thinks about herself is not something we're getting in first person. I don't think I deserve blank. Instead, it's Sophie felt that everybody knew that to be the eldest meant you were the most likely to fail. It has layers to the like mental fuckery that Sophie is going through. And we get to see stuff that Sophie would not feel comfortable expressing in a first person narration. It's genius. Anyways, there's my rant for the day. Take a shot. We should talk about any other thoughts on the like what were we talking about before this? On the like Sophie's self-worth and the receiving of the curse specifically. Before we move on, I don't wanna go before anybody else has a chance to say stuff. Ernst says at the end of the book, oh, hi, Panda. How's it going? Oh, are you here too in chat? Panda, the German speakers in chat. Hello, Panda. Runesnip says at the end of the book, Howl asks Sophie why she brushed him off when they first met, which she never answers. I believe it's because when they met, she had such bad self-esteem she couldn't imagine why someone would genuinely be interested in her and figured it had to be a trick. This is incorrectly verified to her when she discovers that the man was Howl because he just wanted to steal her soul. Oh man, Runesnips, that's really good. I too was like, I was so begging Sophie to answer that question. It happens in like the last 2 pages, right? When Howl says, hey, why? I've been wondering all along if you would turn out to be that lovely girl I met on May Day. Why were you so scared then? And Sophie does not answer. I've been thinking about that line since I finished it. So much happens in the last 2 pages. Yeah. If I have one gripe with the book, it's that the last 2 pages should be a chapter and a half, but
Same.
yeah.
For me, also, the ending felt very rushed.
I can't wait to someday watch the movie and understand how it tackles the ending. But like, yeah, I know we're jumping around a lot, but
Yeah.
the thoughts on how the ending is landed.
See, for me, I guess, as I've only read this book once, this is, my first time reading it, like, I didn't see any of that coming, like, at all, and I felt like I was really slow, and I felt like, I literally, as I got to the last 2 pages, I was like, several WTFs.
Yeah,
and
several
also
WTFs.
asking myself, should I have seen that? When should I have seen that? Should I have picked up on it earlier? Like, and even just the possibility of Sophie being magically inclined was really late. That realization came really late for me too. And so it was just like, wait, should I have seen this? And so like there's part of me that wants to read it again and take notes to see what clues were where and what I should have, what I missed the first time through.
What are the ending realizations that you have? Like let's try and list them if we can. I think there's the realization that Sophie and Howl are actually either romantically or like are in some ways like like connected, or like there's that. I think Howl and Sophie is a revelation. You just said that Sophie is magical. That's actually something I really struggled picking up on throughout. Like once it's literally told to you that she had like spoken magic into some things, I was like, oh, okay. But that also sort of like is confirmed in the last couple pages when she makes the stick attack Miss Fingorian. Other realizations or like bombshells, if you will, that happen in the last couple pages?
Well, I think for me it was completely redeemed Howl's character. Like he was doing the things he was doing for a good reason, right? He had a plan, he had thoughts, and so it wasn't just that he was avoiding everything and everybody.
Yeah. Sadie?
The whole Miss Angorn being the fire demon for the witch, I don't think that was really clear at any point in the book until all of a sudden I was like, okay, and this is the fire demon. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
great.
There's the fact that like I still actually don't know it to this day, because I should look back and see. But like the how much Sophie's family knew, to me, is like a bombshell at the end. Like didn't one of the sisters like, or maybe both, like, or was it I feel like one of her family just like knew who she was and didn't
Both of the sisters knew. Basically,
sisters
didn't
knew? Yeah.
everyone know?
I
the
mean,
only-
Was it
Fanny
Mrs.
recognized her immediately.
Fanny recognized her. The
Yeah,
sisters
Mrs.
maybe
yeah, so
knew.
does-
Yeah.
And Mrs. Fairfax as well recognized
Yeah.
recognized
I'm
her?
pretty sure
Yeah.
just everyone knew.
Yeah, that to me that was a huge bombshell where I was like, oh my god, I have to rethink what each of these characters. This is where a second reading would be amazing, because I'm like, I have to rethink what Mrs. Fairfax was doing halfway through the book, or Fanny was doing, because like, or Letty or Martha, based on if they knew.
Ironically, sorry. Ironically, that made me so mad. To just
yeah.
to sit there and read. Oh yeah, basically everyone knew that this is Sophie. She's under a spell, and everyone was working behind her back to kind of help her and discussing what to do, and no one let her in and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this says a lot about like Sophie's own state of mind, which is like reflected in the spell, right? Because it was not for any, well, not the spell itself, but her disguise, quote unquote, was not for anyone else. It was for herself. It was to hide herself and to like find some kind of comfort zone in, because it kind of confirmed everything she believed about herself from the beginning. That's why she accepted it so easily, right? And then it just became kind of like her shell, essentially, but for no one else but for herself, to protect herself, is the way that I interpret it anyway.
Yeah.
I feel like that freed her up a lot, though, because she had talked about how she was resigned to inheriting the hat shop and she was just going to stay there. And then immediately, as she's old, she just sets off and has a grand old time doing all kinds of new things, like just getting onto a moving castle and just.
This is, you guys are hitting it on the exact thing Oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something, Pexi, or somebody? I spoke over somebody.
I wanted to say two things really quickly. First of all, there's no question for me in my mind that the curse was actually freed her of her shackles, of her, of all the expectations she felt that was set upon her, of everything she thought she had to do in her previous life. That kind of was all gone for a second, and it was very freeing, but also isolating, because she felt like she couldn't go to her family. An issue I have with what Mona said is that she kind of had the protection around herself as a disguise. And to like isolate herself. I mean, maybe I'm interpreting this too much, but it feels like having someone who's depressed and is isolating because they can't handle the surroundings, and everyone who cares for them just saying, okay, they need their space, we're gonna leave them alone. And in fact, what that person would benefit from, especially to potentially reverse their twisted views on themselves is to have the loved ones reach out and show that they
Yeah.
care, even though they are in a bad spot.
Here's what here's my take on that. I agree 100%, and I think, unfortunately, for the like, in order to drive the plot forward, what you have to do is sort of look like what you have to do if you're Diana Wynne Jones is say, for some reason, her family won't in this situation do that exact thing, do the right thing, because if they don't, if she gets cursed and no one does the like the right thing, and if Fanny doesn't like just sort of turn a blind eye a little bit, if her sisters don't seek their own fortunes, then we don't get Sophie backed into a corner and able
pushed
to
on her
then,
journey
yes,
and into her
exactly.
growth.
Yeah.
Totally, and that's the point of the story, and I can accept that. I can't help but be mad a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not everyone.
Oh, they're characters. They're like humans to us, you know. They if the book works, then we care about them, and you're like, why the fuck would you not just?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
still, it's I'm sitting here thinking the audacity of everyone thinking they know what's best for Sophie.
Yeah. Okay, so
Lambert says that's
ahead.
probably also where the 80s of it all comes across the most, which I don't know if it's actually in reference to that but made me laugh of like.
We have a way of talking about these things now that we didn't in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
Okay, we have to talk about it because I'm obsessed with it. So the like, it seems like we all generally agree, but we should talk through it anyways. The like, Sophie being cursed allows her to start on the journey of like, and to basically like, before she gets the curse of appearing of becoming an old woman, she is like very self-critical and lets that stop her from specifically doing things like seeking her own fortune. But after the curse, she's sort of carefree. K-Bell quoted it and said, as an old woman, she did not mind what she did or said. She found that a great relief. So it sounds like we're pretty much in agreement that like the curse in general freed her up to then go on this journey that we're talking about. But here's my question. You could curse Sophie a million ways. What is it specifically? Because I think it's maybe genius. What is it specifically about choosing the you are now an old woman that works so well to free Sophie up? Does that make sense as a question?
I feel like, I feel like it works so well because everything in her life doesn't fit, like the plans are like, I don't know how to phrase that. Like basically, it turns everything upside down and nothing makes sense anymore. So she set out to run the head shop, to inherit it, to continue her father's line, and like that's the main thing, and that doesn't make sense when she's essentially 90 and she can look at a couple more years of life potentially only, because it's not just that she's turned, like she doesn't just look old, she is old, so her lifespan has shrunk significantly. So that kind of set out a trajected plan that was set out for her. It doesn't work anymore. It makes no logical sense for her to do that.
Rinstim says, in her mind, old people have less consequences in society to speak up. In her mind, in this one, I would say in general, like I think she completely flips positions on the social ladder. Like so much less is expected in some ways of her. Panda says, my immediate take was that she doesn't feel the pressure to maintain the image of a young woman anymore. Of course, she always dresses older, but there's still that pressure to achieve or not achieve, still a pressure to have good posture and be timid and have society doesn't have those same ideals. Yeah, especially, you know, and there's a little bit less of this, but there's the like eligible, like eligible for romance type of thing too, that I think
that as well.
Yeah, I think like that she's freed from it, and that's perfect.
Yeah, the expectation to find a man. Like, wasn't that also something in the early chapters that basically, wasn't it her Fanny or like a stepmother? Someone told her like all the girls should go out and meet a nice man and marry and stuff like that, so that you know you have the girls out of the house and married off. So that's also something, and I feel like also it's a respect thing. I mean, we said about expectations, but like when you are young, you generally get respected less because a lot of the adults look down on you because like, what are you young folks talk to me? Like, you have no life experience, you don't have jobs, you have nothing, you have done nothing in your life that makes me respect you. when you're old, it doesn't matter if you have done something very respectable, if you're recognized for, I don't know, being famous or anything. You're automatically respected and treated very differently than as a young person. So she, like, the responsibilities she has shrink to a low. The respect she receives skyrockets.
Yeah.
And that's gives her the freedom to be like, fuck y'all, I'm gonna do what I want now.
Cable said
I
it's
think
the
for
running out of Fs to give. Go ahead, Meg.
I think for Sophie too, it kind of, the little we know about Sophie by the time it occurs, it kind of like fulfills some of Sophie's greatest fears, or like some of what Sophie has resigned. Like Sophie has resigned her life to growing old in this hat shop and being a little old spinster in the hat shop. And then in a blink of an eye, we get to see Sophie like come to the fulfillment of her like fears and resignation about what her life holds. And so because it's very specifically like
Yo, Ludwig,
Sophie
thank you.
becomes what she has resigned herself to
Thank you for the
become,
sub.
then Sophie has a moment of going, whoa, if this is what I am, then this is what, like, then I don't have to, like.
It's also where the, like, Sophie is so quick to accept what happens to her generally before the curse even happens, then the curse happens. It's what makes it perfect, because, like, if she wasn't resigned to that, then all of a sudden the curse is a huge problem which immediately needs solving. Instead, she can be resigned to it. She can go get involved in the moving castle and actually solve it in the long run.
I think it's interesting, like the first like 5 pages, they talk about how all 3 sisters are like pretty, young women. And then by the 5th page, it's talking about how Howl is this wicked man or a wicked wizard that comes and collects young, pretty girls and sucks the soul out of them. It's like right at the top of page 5. So I could see where suddenly not being young, because whenever they talk about Martha leaving, Martha was scared because Wizard Howl was around. So it just seems like maybe that's another thing. She's free from possibly getting taken by this evil dude.
Yeah, that's a good point, is that specific curse makes Howl a more... All of a sudden, she's free to sort of hate on Howl and not be quite as scared of him, which then means they can gripe at each other and, in the process, like, discover who each other really are.
Bell asked if it was even a curse, which I think is a great segue into Lambrecht's post in book chat earlier today, which I know you really liked, but I think you should read. Okay, I'm gonna read it.
We'll get back to the first part of your comment, Lambrecht, because I also have thoughts about that too. But early in chapter 2, we hear from Martha that, quote unquote, Mother knows you don't have to be unkind to someone in order to exploit them. How is that idea borne out in the rest of the book? It feels to me like one main thesis at work is something near the opposite. You don't have to be kind to someone in order to help them. You can sell a little dude a pun spell that still helps him win a duel. You can try to banish a scarecrow golem and in the process give him just the boost he needs to achieve his mission. You can let your protagonist and point of view character think she's useless and doomed and invisible for 400 pages, when in fact everyone is waiting for her to figure out her true value and or slowly falling in love with her. While those first 2 things aren't that far off from a familiar magic works in mysterious ways, careful what you wish for, approach to fantasy, the last thing is pretty vital to what makes this book unique and gives it reread value. Who knew what at what point in the book, and why were they all like that? Seriously, they're all so weird. I love Diana Wynne Jones, and this is far from my favorite of her books, which I think is interesting. I'd love to hear what your favorite is. But that dynamic is really interesting to me, and a way of approaching bigger questions about narrator reliability. So question being, like, thoughts on the you don't have to be unkind to someone in order to exploit them versus you don't have to be kind to help somebody.
I freaking love that so much.
Yeah, that's how I felt reading Lambrecht's comment. I was like, oh man, you just put into words something that I felt a lot but didn't have words for, which is like, I can't believe, like, so much of what the characters do to each other is they're not kind, but they find help. Like,
but also you can be so like sweet and like nice on the surface and just be just a horrible person. Like it really says a lot about like how much value we place on the performance of
like
like
politeness almost.
social.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like politeness versus kindness. It's like you can be utterly polite or like socially like apt. I hope I'm not stepping on your toes about what you're saying. I hope this is assisting. But like that doesn't necessarily mean true kindness.
100%. And I think it even goes back to what I was saying before about integrity, like doing the right thing even though like when nobody is watching, you know? And I think Howl embodies that a lot, like completely. I mean, mostly towards his relationship to Sophie,
And also
but other
Gales,
characters
though,
as well.
Like I think I started to see glimpses of that when Howl is thinking about like Howl's relationship with his sister and his niece and nephew. Like Sophie gets to see Howl get ripped to shreds by his sister, but then also have a window in his bedroom, meaning he can look out constantly at his family and care for them, right?
So true. So
he doesn't
true.
want to be seen as a good person, but he deeply cares. Yeah, that's I thought that was a really, I don't know. I thought that window was really, I felt like that was the moment where I was like, okay, I understand that Howl is a good person here.
I like that Howl, and this kind of is maybe moving away from the question at hand, but I want to talk about it. So sorry, we can go back to the other stuff too, but I like that Howl is I feel like in fantasy and like even in children's fantasy, it's not uncommon of a trope to be like, oh, the bad guy who ends up being the good guy, right? Like, oh, the bad guy's the good guy, and here's why he's such a good guy, and blah, 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 blah. And like, here's how you were so totally wrong about him. And I feel like with Howl, you do get that, you fulfill that trope because he starts as the big bad, the BBEG that's like eating girls' hearts supposedly. But the thing I like about Howl's redemption arc, or Howl becoming like the good guy at the end of the story, is that Sophie and the narrator and everybody is still like, well, Howl's still flawed. Like Howl's still a slither outer or whatever. Like Howl's still vain. Like Howl still doesn't want to be sometimes doesn't want to be a good guy. And I just like that. I like that Howl gets to be the good guy and also gets to be like a little selfish and a little like it's realistic, and it's like Howl can have all this integrity and be making these really good decisions, but Howl can also like
if Howl
be
was a perfect guy,
dynamic character. Yeah.
If Howl was a perfect guy, he'd be like taking his nephew out to like do something to a museum or something. And instead he's creating fake computer games for his nephew that is like perfectly delightful for the kid.
And that's what I feel like is annoying about that trope, is when it's like, oh, well, this person's actually like just amazing and has no flaws and you just don't understand them right, versus like, yeah, he can still be like have the worst case of the man of all time. Like he's
yeah.
So I like that. I like that it hits that trope, but it doesn't fall into the like, well, then how obviously we have to explain why Howl was perfect the whole time and like never had any like never had any flaws. Him with the man flu was so funny.
It was funny. Whack brought up the scene, and I just have to mention it because it was one of my favorite scenes in the book, about how Howl wants Sophie to muck up his name to the king, and then Sophie mucks up the job of mucking up his name, and the king is just like wise and seeing through it all and being like, oh, interesting. I just thought that was so. I thought basically the scene with the king was the like epitome of Sophie as a character believing she's going to muck things up. Spoiler, she's not. She's actually solving things. Howl as a character thinking, I must blacken my name so that people think badly of me so that I am allowed the freedom to do what I want to do. Spoiler, it's actually like what he actually wants to do ends up being the right thing. It was just and the king being wise enough to see through it all. Oh boy.
Yeah, that was really fun.
That was
Any
a
other
fun
thoughts?
moment. And
Yeah, go ahead.
And in retrospect, that's because earlier you asked if we had a moment at some point where we saw that Hal and Sophie were kind of perfect for each other. I feel like that could be a moment.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
that's a moment that absolutely shows
They both
how
misunderstand the world.
desperate. Not only that they desperately want to create a certain image for themselves, and like I feel like Howl really drives it to an extreme with using multiple names and going on the multiple names, multiple locations, having basically a bunch of fake identities going around.
Yeah.
That's also something I thought about when Meg just talked about his redemption arc. Like, how big of a redemption arc can you have when you go by 5 different names in the same lands? And basically, people hate you on the one name but love you on the other.
Yeah.
You can basically just come out and say, "Hi, I'm these 5 people, and that's all me," and you're redeemed.
Yep.
But yeah, that's definitely a moment where it shows that Sophie and Hal kind of have the same. How do I phrase that? Not the same issue, but they're doing the same harmful thing to themselves, which is trying desperately to create an image that it's not really them, but they believe everyone wants to see or needs them to see or needs them to be.
Yeah.
Kind
They're
of.
like trying to pull a deception and it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not working.
And some
Yeah.
people are wise enough not to buy their bullshit.
Yeah. They are both bullshitters. Yeah. Sophie bullshits herself. Howl bullshits the world. They're both bullshitters. They're meant for each other. Solved. We solved the book. That's
We
it.
solved it.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Thoughts on any other thoughts on the you don't need to be kind to someone to help them idea that I think Lambrecht beautifully put in this comment. Bullshitters unite. Okay, so I now, just because personally I have to talk about it. Lambrecht says, I have not fully formed thoughts about the various exchanges of goods and services in the book. We have to talk about the capitalism of magic. Like, I get a bad taste in my mouth when Howl wears the cape to sell flowers to the poor people of the town, and they buy so many flowers that they don't need, probably with money that they don't have to spare, that Howl just reaps from the countryside he doesn't own. Oh, the poor people of this
I
town,
did
they're
think
being bullied.
I
And
did
this is
think it
the
was
same.
interesting that there was a moment where the narrator tells us that people stop going into the shop when Hal's working because they know they'll buy too many flowers.
Yeah.
Where it's like the narrator's even acknowledging like this would be a problem and this would be like
Yeah.
so I think that is interesting. I didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking about I don't like to spend my time in fantasy worlds thinking about like the underlying economy that drives them because honestly
yeah.
I find that
It never holds up to
but I think this is an
speculation.
I think this is a very interesting question, and I thought I actually, tying back into a question that I missed earlier because Elle was going to sleep, the question of when you knew Sophie was magic. I had a suspicion from the beginning with the hats, because she was talking to the hats and it was very explicitly talking about Sophie talking to the hats and then how well these hats would sell, and then actually when she talked to the scarecrow, like initially when she meets the scarecrow before it becomes enchanted, I was like, oh, this scarecrow is gonna follow her. Like this scarecrow, she brought that scarecrow to real life. Like I was pretty confident in that from the get-go. But I from the beginning was like, oh, these hats are selling, because she talks about like this really ugly hat that I like said something kind of funny to sold. Why would this hat sell? That was very interesting and very like kind of like in a way Fanny was like kept her in the hat shop because she knew she was the one who made the hats sell because the hats were magic.
Yeah, there was some
like,
quote unquote magic happening there.
Like there was a little exploitation of services and goods there. So yeah, it is definitely a weird
Yeah.
economic model.
I also
in
don't
the book.
actually think very deeply about like money systems in Magic worlds. I don't think they hold up, but it did crack me up. Geek, you were going to say something.
And I want to follow up Meg's last point. Like, I absolutely saw Sophie being magical with the hats. Like, I had that thought, and I literally laughed it off. Like, I thought I was, creating conspiracy theories in my head, and I didn't believe it. And so I stopped looking for evidence of it. And I just, like, when it came true at the end, I was like,
That's funny.
oh.
That's so funny because
All right.
I never had that thought, and now I'm like, everybody else did. Shit, I didn't even. I was like, oh man, she really is bored. She's talking to herself. Or
I
talking
didn't
to
have
her
that
hats.
thought either.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't
you're not
either.
alone.
Yeah.
Same.
Good.
But something I wanted to come back to now that, about what you said, Meg, about Howl using a suit or like wearing a suit that's enchanted and selling more flowers to people, especially women, than they really need. I think it's so funny because this is the same person who previously undercharged poor people for his
Yeah.
spells constantly and was kind of famous famous. Okay, that's something that Sophie picked up very early. And now looking back and everything, it makes me wonder if he did that maybe subconsciously in an effort to earn more money before he had to eventually face the Witch of the Waste, which he kind of feared, suspected that it might kill him to potentially, at least financially set off Michael and Sophie in case he dies.
I had a thought on this. So my reading of, and I maybe have it incorrect, and I want to hear what other people think. My reading of the why are the flowers selling so well is that Howl at that point still does not understand that his cloak is magic. So I thought basically he's selling so well not because he's quite so charming, but because he's blinded to the fact that Sophie made him a cape that is magic, that is like...
Yeah, so the suit, he was wearing the
suit.
suit that was enchanted to be like extra charming.
I don't know if
but
he knew it is the question, I guess.
he may have known that though, is
Yeah.
the thing, because he knows
it
all
might be both.
he was much more aware of lots of things than we understood, but
Viable question.
May have been aware of it.
What's that?
Sorry.
Sorry.
I was just saying, I think that he might have been aware of it because whenever she's talking to the hats, it mentioned a couple of them. It was like, you'll have mysterious allure, you're going to have to marry money, you'll be young. And whenever the Witch of the Waste is in her shop, she points it out. She's like, oh, like this one's young, this one's allure, like what else have you got? So I think that she knew that they were, kind of enchanted. So maybe he knew as well.
The witch definitely knew, and my other point is that what was that? The lady's name, the lady who was basically Howl's teacher, and then got killed by the Witch of the Waste, Mrs. something.
Miss
Pinstaman or
Pensimmon?
Yeah,
exactly. That she immediately saw that there was an enchantment on the suit, and like Howl is such a good magician. Either he turned a blind eye, and then he like kind of willingly turned a blind eye to it. I can't imagine that a magician of his caliber would not be able to see that.
This might be answered in the book. I don't know because I've only read it once. My thought there was, if he would be blind to anything, it would be to something related to his good looks. Because he like, I think we think of that almost as one of his flaws, is that he's like vain or like vainglorious. So my thought was, she kind of gave him the perfect gift in a way that backstabs herself, because he believes so much in his own good looks and like riz. I'm so sorry. That the cape might actually like slip under the radar for him, because he's so willing already to believe the lie. Like Sophie is willing to believe the lie that she's the eldest and therefore set to fail. He's so willing to believe the lie that he is so charismatic.
I was gonna say something similar about like him being like benefiting from that in the flower shop. He probably doesn't even think twice about it. Like he uses those spells on himself all the time, and he probably like is in the flower shop not thinking that it has any effect on people buying flowers from him, because he perceives it as just like using that to, get the girls.
Yeah, like I said, I have no tech space for it, but I'm like, at the very least, it speaks to his character that it could be possible, Yeah.
I mean, on that topic, that leads me to another thing. So basically, if he kind of ignores the enchantment on the suit because he already uses spells to have all the women in the land fall for him, like, is that also okay? How do I phrase it? I had a very good sentence in my mind just now and now vanished. So basically, what I want to go through is that basically how about Howl's quest to find true love? Is that something that happens? Is that something that's going on? Is it really just a jackass that tries to get into everyone's panties? Or is he looking for someone? Is he someone who looks for someone who can resist his magical charm and still cares for him anyway? You know what I mean?
I have thoughts. I have thoughts about this.
Hit us.
He does.
I think because he doesn't have his heart anymore, that he is desperately longing to make connections in like a really like traumatized and not healthy way. And I was trying to kind of like formulate this thought in my head, but it's just like a very rudimentary thought of like a trauma response, essentially, like from his situation, and not like having his like not being whole, you know, trying to fill the void, as it were, like, but literally, kind of, you know.
It does make a sort of fairy tale logic that Howl does not have his heart, and so he tries to capture the hearts of others. I think that makes a lot of like fairy tale sense to me.
Exactly that.
And then it's hard to know because we only ever see him, minus the last 2 pages, with that curse on him, like with no heart. So it's hard to know what he's really like there, or what he's sort of being pushed towards. Yeah.
Considering his kindness and like integrity otherwise, it just doesn't make sense for him to be quote unquote heartless in that way, to like actually want to hurt women. I really think that it's, you know, him yearning for something that he doesn't have.
Oh yeah, I guess I would have. Minty Cuppa just said this. He's searching for a feeling connection. It doesn't stick because he has no heart. I think it's alluded to explicitly said in the book. I can't remember where. Yeah, to me, it's not like ever that he is like seeking to break hearts. It's that the breaking of hearts happens as a consequence of him doing everything he can to get that connection and being charismatic, and then after it
100%.
falls by the wayside. Yeah.
So basically, he wants to. That's a very good observation, Mona. So basically, he wants to fall in love, but can't because he gave his heart away. And every time a woman tells him, "I love you," and he feels nothing for her, he knows he failed, and drops her.
Yeah,
And
literally that.
How much do we know about, like, I mean, I know I would like to reread the book with all that I know in mind, because I feel like, you know, we're told this story about Hal is that that's what he does, and I do think he does that. I don't think there's any doubt that he has that reputation and has done that. But when we also see him supposedly doing it throughout the book, he's not doing that. Like, we think he's going and trying to woo Letty, but he tells us that he was talking to Letty to try to figure out how to help Sophie, and we think he's trying to woo
Sophie's flawed perspective.
Like, it's all through her flawed perspective, and Michael alludes to it as well. But Michael's also not a reliable. Like, we know that Michael wasn't fully forthcoming to Sophie about what he knew and about what Hal knew. So I'm not trying to say one way or the other. I'm just truly posing the question, like, do we know how many times Hal actually did that too?
Yeah,
or
we have to
how
acknowledge
much
what we can't know because we're.
How much was Hal doing that, but it was actually in service of, like, you know, and maybe some of that was
he
still
also
not
made up
kind,
stories about himself as well, right? Like, he tried to make a bad reputation for himself.
So
Carly said it'd be interesting to read the book told from his perspective and to see how that would change the reader's opinion of him throughout and the opinion of Sophie. It would, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That would be an interesting read. Okay, we've been at this for an hour and 10 minutes. I think, unfortunately, we should work towards concluding thoughts here in the next little bit.
Oh dear.
any other questions people are like anxious to get out there, dying questions?
Can we
Things you
please
really
talk
want to say?
about whales?
Yeah,
Because that
we should.
caught me so off guard. Like, what?
Uzai and some other
How?
people were
I
mentioning this in
kind of loved
chat
it.
too.
I loved it. I loved it.
I mean, I love
Yeah.
it. I think it's so cool, but it's also like so out of left field, and it gives me so many questions.
Let's start with
Is there
that, which
time
is
travel involved?
yeah.
Like,
Let's start with
is
what was
he?
your like in your body as you're reading the book. What was your reaction to discovering that whales existed and that it was tied to this world and that Howl was from there? Like, talk to me about
I
how you
was
felt.
completely
Rooston says
flabbergasted.
confusing. Mona says flabbergasted.
I loved it. It gave me
Yeah.
real Chronicles of Narnia vibes to have a magical world like connected 2 hours and just like stepping through a doorway away.
Into a
it.
dull, gray, depressing place, which was the real world. I just thought it was kind of delightful, in the way that like I like in the like children's fantasy, like delightful tie-in to the real world. Like I just thought it was fun.
Same, Meg. I was just about to say that for a children's book, I love this kind of thing that suggests to children, even if it's not true, or maybe it is, we don't know, but it suggests to children, hey, there a magical, wonderful, amazing world could just be a step away.
Yeah, I think Pexi just hit on a really important point there, which is that with the idea that this is children's fantasy, I think the confusion that probably a lot of us adults felt, or the like double take or the flabbergastedness, it comes a little bit like children can be a little bit more willing to set that sort of thing aside. That said, I think the thing that so here's my argument for why whales 100% belongs in the book and why it's really smart. Because Diana Wynne Jones phrases it through Sophie's perspective, and it's sort of like when you're watching a Disney movie and there's adult jokes layered in and that children won't know what to make of that. Like that chapter is entitled "In which Howl goes to a strange country in search of a spell." And like Meg mentioned with like the dreary, like you're reading it knowing that Wales is a real place, and you're like you're doing the connecting the real world to it and seeing how Sophie thinks of it. But children may, whether or not they know that whales exist, are maybe less likely to be taken aback by that. It's possible, at least. Yeah.
I guess for me personally, I loved it for the Chronicles of Narnia vibes and that whole bit. And now we've seen so many stories employ multiverse and basically abusing the multiverse since then. But for me, I thought it was kind of refreshing, and especially since Wales was portrayed as this dark and dreary and drab place where the world that Sophie lived in was bright and colorful and more exciting always. I thought it was refreshing. I thoroughly enjoyed it personally.
Yeah.
It up a little bit because I was a little curious why Wales, and I guess the author, both of her parents are Welsh, and she spent a lot of time in her childhood in Wales. And I mean, I feel like that's a pretty common thing. If you're gonna write an area, you're probably gonna write somewhere that at least somewhere, somehow. A lot of people do it, so that might be part
I
of
think
it.
it also just like, to me, with the portal, the like door portal already existing, it's funny because like to me, I always find it very funny when the thing that might take us aback in a book of fiction, wizards, fire demons, seven league boots, etc., is when the most real thing we know pops into the book, right? Like we're sitting here suspending all of our disbelief across millions of tiny little magical facts, like the fact that Sophie can speak magic into hats. And then the thing that actually makes us hold our breath or gasp a little bit is the existence of a place we know and are actually familiar with. But so to me, that's always just like, that's just a wink at the reader, that because Sophie doesn't benefit from that knowledge, but we do. We're like, oh, The author sees us and gave us a little gift here, which is to imagine a real world place that we know to be dreary and with hilarious accents. Hilarious is probably the wrong word. To like fill out our picture of this world.
I think it as in the same way that all of Howl's flaws make him so human, this also makes him like really solidifies him as like
Oh, that's
almost
a
a
great
real
point.
person, because as like a wizard and being able to do magic, and he seems kind of like elusive and mysterious, but then like yeah, and his flaws in combination with him being from the like quote unquote real world or our world really
Yeah.
makes him like very human to me, and
Yeah, he has a
completely
quote
changed
unquote.
my
Yeah.
it completely changed my like perception of him or how I perceived him.
He has a real world niece and nephew he's protecting, a sister who thinks he's a bum and who he is like we all have that family. We all have the family that does not understand what we are doing with our lives, and and if we don't, then we know somebody who does. And he has it too, and isn't just the person who's eating girls' hearts. Yeah, I agree.
I think it
I
is very like children's fantasy tropey too, of just like Harry Potter, Narnia, like all these different worlds where, and obviously this predates Harry Potter, but like that you get some buy-in from kids if they think they can go be a wizard too, like, and I think we all kind of feel that way. Like, I don't know.
I do wonder if, like, because the poem that's his curse and all that, it's it's a poem before it was in the book. It's not something that she had created. So I wonder if that has anything to do with like bringing in that real world aspect, or if it was just coincidence, or if he just wanted to use it. I thought that was interesting because it's by, I think, John Donne.
Yeah, John Donne.
I'm not sure.
I doubt that
Yeah.
it's a coincidence. I'm sure that was a very like thoughtful inclusion, or
It's also
Yeah.
just a clever way around the like, if you're gonna write a spell in a work of magic or in a work of fiction, fantasy, the pressure's on. And in some ways, the way to subvert that pressure is to take a artifact of what I would call real world magic, which is like the poetry of someone as illustrious as John Donne, and use that as your magic spell. Yeah, I just thought that was funny.
It's such
I
a
did-
nice little Easter egg,
Yeah.
for lack of a
Yeah.
better word.
There were some other like literary references that kind of caught me by surprise. I think there was a Shakespeare reference at one point.
Was
It
there?
was Hamlet.
Yeah, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Hamlet,
Hamlet,
yeah.
He was holding the skull.
I think I highlighted it, but
Yeah.
So overall, how did we enjoy the book?
Amazing read. Loved
I'm
it.
so happy I read it. Yeah.
It was really good. I'm gonna order
so
the other
happy-
two because they're sequels.
I already have picked them up today.
Nice.
Ooh.
oh yeah, Howl makes a Shakespeare, a Hamlet comment.
Yeah.
Do you have it, Meg? Do you know what it is?
Yeah. It's from, let's see. Hal came in while she was doing it. Work, 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 he said, stepping over Sophie as she scrubbed. He looked a little strange. His suit was still dense black, but he had turned his hair fair again. It looked white against the black. Sophie glanced at him and thought of the curse. Hal may have been thinking of it too. He picked the skull out of the sink and held it in one hand mournfully. Alas, poor Yorick, he said.
Yeah.
She heard mermaids, so it follows there's something rotten in the state of Denmark. I have caught an everlasting cold, but luckily I'm terribly dishonest. I cling to that. He coughed pathetically, but his cold was getting better and it did not sound convincing. Is that Hamlet?
That's Hamlet.
Yeah.
Something rotten in the
That's
state of
Hamlet.
Denmark. That's
So I
fine.
thought that was funny.
That was very nice.
I do think
And
minus the ending, even the ending, to me it just felt like someone's first novel kind of decisions about how you end a book, but like, not that I could do it better. I'm not trying to say that, but like, even with the like a little bit of a wonky way to end things, I really enjoyed it. I just thought it was delightful, and I like reading. I feel like even as a reader, sometimes the pressure is off reading like children's literature, children's fantasy, or YA, or like I feel like I can turn a part of my brain off sometimes that can be that isn't helping me enjoy things when I read stuff that is quote unquote for children.
Mm. I mean, talking about the ending again, how it felt very rushed, I'm now wondering if the author had to stick to a page limit and ran out of space. I don't know, is that something that happens?
I would not guess it in this situation. But I don't know anything about Diana Wynne Jones's publishing history or like what happened there. To me, it
To
just.
me,
It,
the
go
I
ahead.
thought there were parts. I thought there were definitely parts about the ending that I wish could have been a little bit more explained. But in a lot of ways, I also felt like it just fit the overall like children's fantasy trope and the whole vibe of the whole book. And what I really enjoyed about it was like and I think people who listened to the audiobook said like the audiobook was a really fun experience because the narrator was like an old British woman and it felt like you were just being told a fairy tale. And that's what I like, the ending in a way to me. And there are times where I think it probably could have been better executed. And as a reader, I want a little bit more information. But I think in some ways it works with the whole of the book, which is this like, and you read the opening lines earlier, you immediately are transported, like the tone and the voice of the narrator are so reliably like, I am telling you a story about a magical world that's just around the corner from Wales and like, here's what's happening. And then you have your like conclusion, they're going to be together, they broke the curse, everything's going to be okay, and they lived happily ever after. Like it kind of felt like
Same
they
energy,
lived
teleported in,
Yes.
teleported out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so while there are parts of it that I as a reader wanted more from, I also felt like it fit the overall like theme and pacing and storytelling and tone that the narrator gave us throughout the book. So
I think mostly what I wanted from the ending was just, and it's honestly maybe not a problem with the ending, but like clarity about who knew what when, I think would go a long way towards making the ending more clear for me. But that's how it goes. And like I said, I bet reading this a second time, the ending hits way different. But yeah. Other final thoughts on Howl's Moving Castle?
I want so badly for you to see the movie because I feel
Yeah.
like that's like a whole nother discussion. I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm not like pushing it, but like the differences and similarities between them are like so fascinating.
Yeah.
And
I bet.
give me a lot of feelings.
Yeah. I bet. I can't yeah, especially like, okay, one last thing before we do this, I have to go back to it. So there's this thing that Diana Wynne Jones does at the end. So I talked about how it's close third person narration. She makes an interesting move as a like writing move right towards the end, which I will try to find an example of because I had it marked earlier. So in the whole last pages, like Sophie and Howl are having a conversation and everybody else is having conversations with other people and they're like all having realizations at once, right? And throughout the book, we've been closely tied to Sophie's perspective, as aka the narrator knows mostly what Sophie knows and mostly nothing else, with very few like differences. But on the last few pages, the author does a thing that happens a lot in this type of narration, which is that like you have to sort of zoom out and provide perspective on what's happening with the other characters. And the way she does it is there's a couple places. This paragraph starts, if Sophie had had any attention to spare, she would have seen Prince Justin and Wizard Suleiman shaking hands and clapping one another delightedly on the back. If Sophie, this is a different paragraph, a couple halfway down the page. If Sophie had been attending, she would have seen Wizard Suleiman go up to Letty. And then she keeps describing what's happening there. If Sophie or Howl had had any attention to spare, they might have noticed. So we do this thing where it's like, the story is actually happening to these other people too, and we get a sort of sense of like zooming out and seeing what each of the other people are also going through, which I liked. But again, I just have some minor qualms with the way the ending landed, but not in a way that left a bad taste in my mouth at all. Just in a way that was like, I feel like this maybe could have been slightly different. Next book vote win. That's actually the next question I wanted to ask everybody was just votes on genres. I think what we'll do, if people are cool with it, is we'll sort of vote on a genre, and then from the genre, I'll bring like 3 suggestions. Maybe next week we can vote on it and then read it. If that sounds, I don't know. We're figuring this out as we go. That was sort of my thought, is like maybe let you guys pick the genre this time, and then I'll pick 3 books, and then you guys
Sounds
can
good
pick
to
the
me.
books. Okay. Well, let's do. We probably should give people in the Discord also a chance to vote who aren't exactly here on stream. But what genres would you like to see? We've talked a little bit about this already, but like, feel free to hit me with your ideas. Also, I can't promise that we'll do a movie night, but I did tell people on stream yesterday that I think there is a chance. Listen, I can't do a movie night until I watch The Last of Us. I can't do it. I have promised The Last of Us for like 6 months now. I have to make that happen. Oh my God, literally everybody voted sci-fi. Holy shit. Okay, well, we'll probably do at least 1 month of sci-fi and then switch to something else. And I'll ask the people in Discord too. But what I was going to say is, I do think there is a future Ghibli movie like week or weekend in the works where maybe we could watch Howl's Moving Castle and a couple other Ghibli movies like a couple days in a row, maybe even a week.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If and when we do watch Howl's, would you be open to maybe having another like super short, tiny short discussion, like with
Absolutely.
book club people about the movie?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I feel like that would be fun.
Yeah, I feel like that would be fun. And I'm sure at that point we'll all forget what happened in the book in certain ways, but I would absolutely be down with that. I'd want it, frankly. Sorry, I'm scrolling up and reading lots of comments here. I'm good with pretty much anything. Book club could be a good thing to push my genre boundaries. It's also like, if the book we end on each month-ish period isn't quite for you, you can also take, you can take a step away. Cassie says, not gonna lie, it was hard for me to finish Howl's on time because of my Outer Wilds journey, but glad I was able to do my first book club. I'm so proud of you guys. If you were at your first book club, you made it. You did it. Well done. Now we get to do it again. Was a month for a book of this length about right? Did people need more time? Or are they just going to take however long it takes to read the book? Does that make sense as a question? Like, I would probably, no matter what the deadline is, I'll probably take until the day before the deadline to read the book. But that's just because that's how I am.
Same.
Yeah.
I was literally just finishing the last chapter, like, came in late to stream.
Yeah.
I could probably do better about my procrastination issues, but
listen, Mona, it's Fresh Air Friday month. We don't judge, all right? We don't
appreciate
judge.
you.
Listen, and the reason we don't judge is because I could judge myself the same way, and I don't want to be judged right now. I read.
Man, just being real though, this could be a good way to work on that for me personally.
Wax says I read 30 pages at the beginning of the month and the rest in the last 3 days.
For me personally, the time and length is absolutely no issue. The kind of issue I have personally right now is that I still have a class going on until early April, so I'm kind of crunched on time slots for read, but that's a purely me issue, and that's the reason I kind of ran late and also finished this morning.
Raise your hand if you finished the book in the last 24 hours. My hand is raised, to be clear. Megan is better than us, and she finished it a while ago. But Whack, Pexy, Mona, Carly finished it with 5 minutes to spare.
Yeah,
Geek
my initial plan was because I read the first 100 pages in Hamburg still while I was reading on the train.
Yeah.
And then the plan was to read an additional 100 pages every other weekend, and it would have been done last weekend. But yeah,
Oh,
that didn't work out.
God bless your planning ahead heart. That's
Can I just
admirable.
say,
Yeah.
also, like, we're talking about how quickly the last chapter really wrapped things up. But when I tell you that I finished it by listening to the audiobook on 2x speed on YouTube and reading along, so it was like
It was real
jet
quick.
fast.
It was 5 minutes fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I read the last 5 pages in bed last night before I was falling asleep, and I was like, "How the hell are we gonna finish this book in the next 5? Oh, okay, we're done. Oh, it's done. Oh,
Literally.
everything's done. Okay."
I
Completely.
had the
Yeah.
opposite experience, which was I thought so because there were a bunch of extras at the end of my Kindle copy. There were like excerpts from 2 other books and this question and answer. It still said I had 45 minutes of the book left, and then I was at the end of the book, and I was like, "Excuse me."
It's actually diabolical.
Like I think all of a sudden I'm on the last page of the book, and it's the last page of the book.
Yeah.
And Kindle's still telling me I had 45 minutes left, and I was like, they should not include the extras at the end of the book as part of the time calculation you have to finish the book.
You've been robbed.
Okay, I think I'm gonna hop off voice call here and then hop off stream in just a second. But it sounds like we'll do sci-fi. I'll bring 3, maybe 4 book recommendations that will be vaguely the same length, most likely. Also, feel free to hit me with your recommendations in the book chat. I'll bring those next week at this coming week at some point. We'll vote, and then I'll give you about a month to read it, and we'll do this again. You guys are all the best for being here, and also thank you, Pexi, and everybody who hopped into the voice call. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for
It
having
was
us.
so fun.
Megan and I almost talked to each other a whole bunch today.
Bye,
Appreciate
guys.
you guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, I'm out of here. Meg can hop into the room if she wants to come hang out. That was fun. Thanks for organizing it. Oh man, that was easy and fun. I'm very glad I was pushed to do it. Very glad I could be. Shout out to everybody who recommended it for a long time that we do a book club or expressed interest. You know.
We made it work.
We made it work. Hey, the year is 2025. Everything is begging for your attention. Apps on your phone, the screen, the small screen in your hand, the big screen at your desk, the other screen on your laptop. The world is scary. People, in some ways, the thing that makes the least sense in the world is to read a physical artifact like a book and get together with some people and talk about it. And here we are. We're doing it. We're doing the damn thing. Proud of you all. Thanks for doing it. Geek had tech issues. You're never allowed to give me tech issues or crap about tech issues again.
This was so great. I've never done a book club in my life. I am so happy this was my first. This community is so awesome.
Oh, Mona, you killed it. You all did. That was great. Special shout out to the people who joined in voice chat and made it a little bit less lonely for Megan and I over there. You guys did awesome. Thank you for everybody who was typing here in chat too. That was great. I'm sorry if I missed your very ingenious comments because I was distracted by both. Y'all are making me literate. TY. Y'all are making me literate. TY. Oh, you're so welcome, Speeds. You're doing it yourself. We're just helping a little bit. Okay, I'm out of here. It's Saturday. I'm gonna go spend some more time with my family. Megan has already spent way too much time with our daughter today without my help, so I'm gonna go do that. Until then, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Goodbye now. Goodbye. Thank you. Goodbye. This is a really good time. Goodbye.